The scent of gunpowder hung faintly in the air as Madison Granger stepped out of her father's dusty old pickup truck and onto the gravel outside the Wichita Valley Shooting Club. She tugged her flannel sleeves down and adjusted her worn ball cap. The rifle case in her hand wasn't fancy, just the same battered case her father used when he taught her how to shoot tin cans off the old wooden fence back home. Today, though, she was stepping into a whole different world. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with testosterone, laughter, and the sound of high-powered rifles going off in practiced rhythms. Men in shooting vests and branded gear roamed confidently from bench to bench, while others compared custom-built rifles with scopes worth more than her entire truck. Madison walked quietly past them all, her boots echoing on the concrete floor, and headed toward the sign-up desk. The man behind the counter looked at her, blinking. Miss, you here for the junior tour, or someone drop off a rifle for repair?" he asked half-jokingly. Madison simply replied, "I'm here to compete." He raised an eyebrow but handed her a registration form. As she filled it out, a few other shooters glanced over, exchanging smirks. One nudged his friend. "Look at this. Farm girl thinks she's Annie Oakley." Madison ignored the comments. She didn't come to prove anyone wrong. She came for herself, and maybe a little for her late father, who once told her that talent didn't ask permission to shine. As the names were called one by one, contestants stepped up and fired, their scores tracked on big screens overhead. Ricky Hayes, the reigning champion, arrived in full swagger. He wore expensive ear protection and carried a rifle with a laser sight, the kind you'd expect from someone with a sponsorship deal. The crowd clapped as he walked by. Ricky didn't notice Madison until he overheard her name being called. "Who?" he asked someone beside him. "That girl." He laughed, shaking his head. "Well, this should be cute." Madison stepped to the firing lane, ignoring the eyes on her. She opened her case and carefully lifted out her father's old Winchester. It didn't gleam like Ricky's gun. There were scratches on the stock, and the scope had seen better days. But it had heart. It had history. She took a deep breath, the kind she'd learned to take when chasing coyotes through fog or lining up a shot in freezing winds. She loaded one round, steadied herself, and fired. The range went quiet. The monitor blinked. Bullseye. Some of the onlookers leaned forward. Madison didn't smile, didn't gloat. She just reloaded and fired again. Another bullseye, and another. By the end of her session, the air around the range had changed. Whispering gave way to stunned silence, then to slow claps. Madison didn't just match Ricky Hayes' score, she beat it, and not by a small margin. Her precision was unnerving, perfect. Even the range staff came forward to double-check the monitor, as if it couldn't be right. Ricky looked pale. His usual cocky demeanor had vanished, replaced with disbelief. Madison walked past him without a word, rifle slung over her shoulder, head high, not in arrogance, but in quiet pride. She didn't need to say anything. Her aim had already spoken louder than words. Outside the Wichita Valley Shooting Club, the evening air had turned crisp, but the crowd inside remained electric with murmurs and disbelief. Madison Granger, the quiet farm girl, had just set a new range record, one that even the seasoned competitors struggled to comprehend. But while others still debated if it was beginner's luck, the club owner, Mr. Whitmore, had already made up his mind. As Madison packed up her rifle, he approached her with a firm handshake and a wide grin. "Miss Granger, that was the finest shooting I've seen in over 20 years. Ever consider competing professionally?" Madison looked up, blinking with surprise. "Professionally?" she repeated, almost laughing at the idea. "I've only ever shot at fence posts and soda cans." "Well," Whitmore said, "maybe it's time the world saw what a real shooter looks like. We've got a regional event next month. I'd be honored to sponsor you." Before Madison could answer, a small group had gathered around. Some of the very men who had chuckled earlier were now applauding. Even Ricky Hayes, though clearly humbled, stepped forward and nodded. "You've got something real," he said. No hard feelings. You earned every point. It wasn't long before local reporters showed up, having caught wind of the upset. A young journalist asked, "How does it feel to come from nowhere and beat the best?" Madison paused, her voice calm and grounded. "I didn't come to beat anyone. I came to see if I could hold my own. My dad used to say, 'Be better than yesterday, not better than someone else.' That's what I was aiming for." That quote hit social media within minutes. Madison's photo, standing tall in her flannel, holding the weathered Winchester, circulated widely. "Farm girl marksman sets record," the headlines read. And just like that, she became a symbol of raw talent and humility across the shooting community. The next few days brought a whirlwind. Shooting gear companies reached out, offering new rifles, endorsements, and training opportunities. But Madison was hesitant. She wasn't after fame. She didn't want to lose the simplicity of why she loved shooting in the first place. Back at the farm, her mother beamed as she watched her daughter on the news. "Your father would be so proud," she whispered, holding an old photo of him in his army uniform, rifle slung across his shoulder. Madison did eventually accept Mr. Whitmore's offer, but only under one condition: she would still use her dad's Winchester at the regional event. She believed in honoring the legacy that taught her patience, focus, and heart. Weeks later, as she stepped onto a much bigger stage with hundreds watching, she wasn't the same girl who had walked into Wichita Valley unnoticed. She was Madison Granger, farm girl, marksman, and quiet force of nature. And as her first shot rang out into the cool morning air, the crowd fell silent again, not in doubt this time, but in awe.